consistently competing with each other for grants or volunteers or all this other kind of stuff. But if we can draw commonalities between our struggles, then we can unify our power and unify our voices to get those kinds of changes to happen. So currently right now I'm in the process of reaching out to and engaging a huge variety of organizations that are focusing on a variety, just a broad swath of work here locally in Santa Cruz, and inviting them to come and be a part of it. The goal with this is that while this is the National March on Washington Day, we're acting in solidarity with the national movement and also using this as an opportunity for us to begin the conversation, excuse me, of ways that we can solidify those connections between organizations that are working on similar problems. Even, you know, I always emphasize the interconnectedness of all things. Like the universe is inextricably tied together. There's the great quote from Dr. King about how we're all tied together in a mutual garment of destiny. And that the emphasis on acknowledging that opens up our perspective to be able to understand the essentialness of co-working. The issue of environmental destruction has a direct correlation to white supremacy and racism. The issues of racism have a direct correlation to poverty and inequity and criminal justice reform. Patriarchy and misogyny have direct connections with violence against women, and violence against women has a direct correlation to issues of trans and people of color being abused in general because of this idea of male power and the ability to be violent and destroy things that you disagree with and all this other kind of stuff. So once we can bridge our work and unify our voices, we'll be able to make some serious change in the world. And that's the message the Poor People's Campaign carries. That's the message that we're trying to achieve with this event on the 23rd. Is to start the conversation of ways that we can have this going. I'm actually working along with a group called It's Our Home here in Santa Cruz that's trying to put together an event that's called the Rising Tide Symposium and Festival, where they're renting out all of London Nelson, and for the record, it's written as Loud Nelson, but I have consciously decided in my life to only refer to it as London Nelson. And if you're curious, I would encourage you to look up why. And they're renting out all of London Nelson and the community center and using that as an opportunity for not only large-scale conversations amongst a diverse group of organizations, but also for smaller breakout groups on issues that could overlap and correlate with each other. So these kinds of things are happening in Santa Cruz. The thing that is needed is just for people to engage, to get involved. If it's something that people are interested in organizing, reach out. If it's something that someone's interested in participating in, or you have an organization that you want to engage with, reach out. There's two great opportunities, the Poor People's Campaign on June 23rd and the Rising Tide Symposium on September 30th. So those are two fantastic opportunities to grow community power.
And so, John, I wanted to ask you, how did you become involved with SNCC? How did you get connected?
Oh, well, it's when I look back on my life, I see a lot of zigzags. But interestingly, I was zigging and zagging in one direction. I just didn't know it through most of my life. It took a while to figure it out. But I was a student at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, Mass. And I was a member of the Students for Democratic Society chapter there that we had created. SDS was a pretty... It was an organization with a lot of autonomy for the chapters. I mean, it wasn't like someone came in and told us to do it or even helped us in any kind of way. We just did it and then connected to the national SDS. But as an SDS chapter, we were trying to be as supportive as possible what was going on in the civil rights movement itself. And in '65, after the Selma to Montgomery March, when SNCC issued a call for allies to go to Montgomery as part of the struggle, because there was a lot of violence after that march. It was not directly connected to the march, but it had to do with voting rights, people pushing for it. I mean, Viola Luizzo, an Italian-American woman from Detroit, had been shot to death just a few days before I got there, bringing food to
right.
people who were demonstrating in Montgomery. So it was by way of Students for a Democratic Society that I got hooked into a group called Friends of SNCC, Friends of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating
Okay.
Committee, because the requirement to be in SNCC was that you be full-time working in the South, and that's not what I was doing. And like I said before, I really respect the people who were doing that
Right.
full-time in the Deep South. And I think especially of my friend Hardy Fry, who used to teach sociology here, who was out there with all the churches that were getting burned and bombed out in the rural areas that one didn't see in the newspapers. And
Yeah.
that's where Hardy and others like him were. So anyway, my part in this was very, very small, but it shows you something about interorganizational cooperation too. I mean, Students for a Democratic Society would not have been democratic had it not reached out to be of some kind of assistance to
Right.
what was going on in the civil rights movement in the South. And SNCC was the most, it was also made up of young people, college students, mostly African American college students from the South. So there was a kind of an affinity there, but you had to reach out. You had to, I had to go from Massachusetts to Alabama, and I didn't have time to go see my father's family because it was kind of dangerous to be moving around on your own. But that trip from Massachusetts to Alabama required cooperation between SNCC and SDS. And that was, at least for the part that I experienced, it was seamless. It was seamless. I mean, SNCC did a really excellent job of organizing the reception that we received in starting out in Atlanta. Then we went from Atlanta down to Montgomery. And I don't mind telling you, I was scared to death.
Yeah.
I mean, I went, but it was scary, and I was born in Boston, right? So, like you, I mean, I had actually never been in the South, and so the intensity of it was quite remarkable, and being run down by a sheriff's posse of horses, sheriff's deputies on horses with these long, billy clubs we used to call them, but they could use while on horseback to whack people on the head, or if you had